Stop waiting to feel motivated. Motivation is not coming first. It never was. Maybe you want to move more, or maybe you want to eat differently, because you know those things matter. But by the end of the day, you're exhausted, right? Or scrolling, takeout, those things just sound so much easier. Or it just doesn't feel like enough of a priority considering, everything else that's demanding your time and energy. So you'll tell yourself, I'll start when I feel more motivated. I'll start when things calm down. I'll start when I have more energy, when the timing's better. And so you wait. And meanwhile, nothing changes, right? The days pass, the habit never starts, and you blame yourself for not having enough motivation. Here's what I want to tell you. Motivation is not the problem, and waiting for it is exactly what's keeping you stuck. If you're new here, I'm Julie Fikert. I'm a health and well-being coach, and this channel is for women who know what they want to do for their health, but can't quite seem to make it happen in real life. Before I go any further, I want to say something. The reason you believe motivation comes first is not because you're doing something wrong, right? It's because that's the story we've been told our whole lives. We're told, wait until you're ready, or wait until you feel inspired, or wait until the time is right. That message is everywhere. It's in the way we talk about goals. It's in the way we talk about change. In basically every piece of advice we have ever been given about starting something new. So of course you're waiting. It makes complete sense that you're waiting. But here's what that story leaves out. Motivation does not precede action. It follows it. Here's how it actually works. You do something small. Something so manageable it feels almost too easy, and your brain notices that you did that thing. That small win triggers a release of dopamine. You feel a little better, maybe a little more capable, and suddenly that next step doesn't feel impossible anymore. It feels possible, doable. That's motivation, and it only shows up after you move. So let me give you an example here, okay? Let's say you want to exercise more. So instead of signing up for a gym membership or committing to a running program, you do something ridiculously small. You put on your shoes after dinner and you take a walk around the block. That's it. And on that walk, something happens. The air feels good. Your body feels a little looser, you sleep a little better that night, and the next evening that memory of how you felt is still there. So the walk doesn't feel as hard to imagine, right? You do it again. And a week in, you notice your energy's a little steadier. Maybe 2 weeks in, it's something you're looking forward to. A month later, you're wondering if you could go a little further. Maybe you're thinking about trying something different. The motivation to move was not something you found lying around. It's something your small repeated action created. And that is how change actually happens, not through willpower or inspiration, but through tiny steps that feel doable, that your brain notices, that create just enough momentum to keep going. Okay, I want to pause here for a second because I know what it feels like to be in that waiting place, right? When you're waiting for that right moment to start, for the motivation to arrive, it does not feel like you're giving up, right? It feels like you're being realistic. Like you're acknowledging that right now, with everything on your plate, you genuinely do not have what it takes to start something new. And that feels like honesty, not defeat. Here's what I want you to see. Every day you spend waiting for motivation to arrive is a day you don't get the small win that would have created it. You're not just standing still. You're actively missing out on this feedback loop that would fuel you forward. The endorphins to your brain, the sense of, I did that. The tiny but real evidence that change is possible for you. And in the background, the things you're worried about, they keep quietly happening, right? Your energy stays low. Your health stays where it is, or maybe it slowly drifts. The years passed. And that gap between where you are and where you want to be, it doesn't close, right? Not because you lack motivation, but because you were waiting for something that was only ever going to come from the other side of a small action. You were waiting for motivation to give you permission to start. But motivation was waiting for you to start. So if action creates motivation, the question becomes, what does that first action actually look like? The instinct most people have is to start smaller than their original big plan, right? So maybe you cut the hour workout you were planning down to 30 minutes, or you commit to cooking at home 4 nights a week instead of the 7 you'd really like to do. And honestly, that makes complete sense, right? You're being reasonable with yourself. You're trying to meet yourself where you are. That is not a character flaw. That is good thinking. Here's where it usually breaks down. Even the scaled back version that we create for ourselves is often still too much for a life that's already full to the brim. And when it falls apart, like when that 30-minute workout gets skipped because dinner ran late and the kids need help with homework, it feels like failure. Like you could not even do the smaller thing. This is not your fault. This is what happens when the step is still bigger than what the moment can actually hold. In the real, messy, chaotic lives that most of us actually live every day, the step that actually works is the one that feels almost embarrassingly easy. So easy that you can't talk yourself out of it. So easy that on your worst day, you're most exhausted, you're most overwhelmed, most I have nothing left day, right? That day. That step should be small enough you can still do it. So I'll give you an example. Maybe you put on your shoes and you walk to the end of the driveway. Maybe you drink 1 glass of water before your coffee. Maybe you sit down for 5 minutes after dinner without your phone. Not because any of those things is going to transform your health overnight, but because your brain needs to experience doing the thing before it will generate the desire to keep doing it. You're not building a habit yet. You're building evidence, right? Evidence that you can do this. Evidence that small step feels good. Evidence that change for you is actually possible. That evidence is what drives you forward. So here's what happens when you finally take that first ridiculously small step and your brain gets the evidence it needs. Things start to feel possible in a way they just didn't before. That walk around the block was not just a little exercise, it was proof that you can do this. That prepackaged salad you bought was not just a meal, it was evidence that you can eat differently without your whole life imploding. And your brain notices. It remembers how that felt. And suddenly the next step doesn't require the same amount of energy to imagine. You're not white knuckling anymore. You're not waiting for some mythical motivation to strike. You're building on small wins, and each small win makes the next one feel more real, right? More possible, more like something you can actually do. And here's the thing. That is not willpower. And that is not discipline. That's just momentum, right? Momentum is so much more powerful than motivation ever was. And here's the really cool thing about momentum. It doesn't require a perfect plan. It doesn't require you to overhaul your life or commit to some big transformation. It just requires you to just pick one ridiculously small thing and actually do it. And then do it again. If any of this is resonating with you, I want to tell you something that's about something I created. It's specifically for moments like this. It's a free workbook, walks you through the framework for figuring out what first small step actually might work for you. Something ideally that is so aligned with what you genuinely want that your brain will notice that win. And so easy that you can't talk yourself out of it. The link to download it's in the description below. I hope you find it helpful. Thanks for spending time with me today. And please, as you go out in the world today, be as kind to yourself as you are to everyone else.